with the vice presidential nominee once and recorded everything, did the photos, updated the website. We had, for the press department, working with the traditional press, we had people assigned to us who, for instance, developed our Fight the Smears website, which we put in place for the general election after having one too many emails that the candidate and his wife said, isn't there something more effective we can do than just read these things? And the answer was, yes, we're going to try something different. We had, obviously, a large department to deal with the traditional media in the United States, and given both the national and the international interest in this election, we had a gigantic press corps and a huge number of requests. But the reality is that whether it was a David Plouffe video or an Obama speech, that a huge part of our press strategy was focused on making the media cover what Obama was actually saying, as opposed to, you know, why the campaign was saying it, what the tactic was. That we had a huge premium both on message discipline, on people in the campaign not leaking to reporters, on people in the campaign not discussing our strategy, and also on making the press cover what we were saying. So we, one of the reasons we did so many of the David Plouffe videos was not just for our supporters, but also because it was a way for us to get our message out without having to actually talk to reporters. We just put that out there and make them write what Plouffe had said, as opposed to Plouffe doing an interview with a reporter. So it was very much, we controlled it, as opposed to the press controlled it. And it did not always make us popular with the press. But we increasingly, by the general election, very rarely did we communicate through the press anything that we didn't absolutely control. Senator Obama himself did a lot of local television. We went to as much live television as possible, so it couldn't be edited. When it came to him, it was live, so that he could speak in longer than a 12-second sound bite, so that what the voters heard, we determined, as opposed to some editor in a TV station. But we went to alternative media a great deal. And one of the things that I probably should have mentioned in mine was that one of the reasons that the website worked so well was we used opportunities in the traditional media to drive people online, to basically say that's where you can get more information, that's where you can get the most updated information. And that we used speeches, we used appearances, and we used press to basically drive people to our website, which increased our traffic. When he was on TV, the traffic would go up anyway. But that they have to work together. It all has to work together. But no, you're right, we went around that filter. Yeah.
Le voy a dar la palabra a John Goggin.
My question is for Anita, and if Ben would also like to interject, I think it'd be great. You mentioned something very important, that because of technology, the campaign reached out to a record number of citizens in the United States. And I think it's become, what you're saying is more people to people, more grassroots. Do you think that technology in this campaign will change politics and make future campaigns, or any campaign, more peaceful?
Advantages that the technology and the engaged group of people on the internet brings to politics that did not exist in the past is, and Ben alluded to this, a premium on authenticity. And I would say that the ability for elected officials to say things that aren't true, or to say one thing to one audience and another thing in another audience, has ended. Okay, as we now tell politicians rather routinely, there is no such thing as off the record. There is no such thing as a closed to press meeting. Anybody with a cell phone can pick up the video, and Senator Obama himself learned that when he told a fundraising group in San Francisco in March. He made some comments about people who owned guns in small communities that ended up, of course, costing us a lot of votes in rural Pennsylvania. Were used against him. That there is no such thing. That thanks to YouTube, we tell people anything you say you should expect to be on YouTube. And it's now not just a campaign research staff that's fact-checking to see if the opponent is lying. And it's not just the press, but it's also anybody who sees those comments. And during the general election, we used to joke that we had 13 million people on our opposition research staff, because I would get so many emails from people saying, John McCain said this, why aren't you showing that that it wasn't true? And there were so many people continually fact-checking everything anybody said during the campaign. And the extraordinary power of technology simply means that the premium for what Ben calls authenticity, but I might just call being honest, is much higher than it used to be. That what people could get away with even 4 years ago just isn't going to happen. So.
Secretario Paredes.
Muy buenas noches. Cuando uno va al juego hay otro jugador. Usted hablaba de los pilares que fueron pensados y definidos por Obama, Barack Obama. Sin embargo, hubo una estrategia que es ya tradicional en los Estados Unidos, que es el debate presidencial, tanto en las elecciones primarias como en la nacional. ¿Hubo algo diferente ahora con la participación de Obama en esos clásicos debates, los candidatos en Estados Unidos? ¿Pudieron ustedes aprovechar su participación en esos debates para incorporarlo a esa nueva visión de hacer política?
During the primary campaign, Barack Obama participated in 22 debates with his opponents. At first, all 7 or 8 or 9 or however many there were, and finally a series of one-on-one debates with Senator Clinton. And I think he would tell you that he didn't feel that those were his best performances, that it's not the format he enjoys the most, that the 30-second or 60-second or 90-second, answer a question about health care in 60 seconds, I think we all recognize that's ludicrous. How are you going to reform education? You have 30 seconds, Mr. Minister. For the general election, we always felt those debates would be critical. And we brought a level of preparation and planning to them that we simply did not for the primary. For the general election, those debates were going to allow the American people their longest and most unfiltered opportunity to make the judgment on whether Barack Obama was up to the job of being president or not. And we knew that is the role that the debates have played in the past. That in 1980, a campaign that we studied closely because we felt there were many similarities between Ronald Reagan's campaign in 1980 and Barack Obama's campaign in 2008, not the politics, but other things, that ultimately the debate that Reagan had against Jimmy Carter was the one where people said, okay, I've heard he's kind of a right-wing